Republican side, do you have a primary?
I do.
Yeah.
Gentleman by the name of, I think it's David LeBay.
Oh, LeBay. Okay, yeah, we interviewed him.
You want to do the intros, Ed?
No, you do them.
Me?
Yeah, you're the expert.
Oh, okay.
I have not met him. I know very little about him, so
No.
I'm just doing my own
Good
thing.
afternoon, Las Vegas. This is Clark, filling in between Rolando and Ed Hewling. This is Ed Hewling's show where he introduces various candidates running for office this cycle with the Nevada legislature, as Assembly and Senate. We have with us Marty Hagans, who I believe is running for the Assembly, I believe.
Marty Hagans.
Hagans, I'm sorry. Marty
All right.
Hagans.
I've been called much worse.
Okay.
Hagans.
And Ed Hewley's going to interview him a little bit and have Marty tell us what he's up to and what his programs are and his platform. And welcome to the show, Marty and Ed. And
Thank you. But it's not Ed Hewling's going to interview him, it's Ed Hewling and Clark Feely.
Oh, okay. Well,
and Rolando can jump in anytime.
Okay, well,
we want to make sure we get all the story
all
out of,
bases
these,
covered. Okay.
out of this candidate.
All right.
So,
Well,
first of all, tell us about your candidacy. Which district are you running? Who's the incumbent? Why did you decide to run?
Well, Ed, first of all, thank you very much for having me here today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak with you and to meet you, obviously. The reason I'm running is, and I'm running for Assembly District 34, the reason I'm running is that this past legislative session I had an agenda that, like most Nevadans, sent their legislators to Carson City to stand by, if you will.
And that agenda?
That agenda with, you know, leave our taxes alone, stop taxing us to death, that wasn't followed. Basically, my voice was not heard in Carson City. And I no longer can trust most of our elected officials to listen to their constituents. They go up there and they do their own thing, and the rest of us are left holding the bag. I don't want my taxes going up anymore, and most of the, in fact, every one of the constituents that I've been speaking to in my district are the same way. They feel exactly the same way. Stop raising our taxes. This used to be a very, very business-friendly state.
Low tax, business friendly.
Exactly, and it's not turning out that way anymore. We are becoming rapidly a non-business friendly state. Our small businesses are going to be hammered in this next legislative session, and I moved here from California because this is a business-friendly state, and it's gone by the wayside.
And do you have a business of your own?
I did at one point.
Here in Nevada or in California?
Here in Nevada.
Okay.
It was a nonprofit sailing academy that we had at Lake Mead. And
When you say nonprofit, you mean unintentionally nonprofit?
no, it absolutely was a nonprofit. And
Why?
it was
Why?
it was
That's
set up
not a
that
business.
way.
Why not?
We had a very, very good time with it. I got more involved in the security aspects of this of the city, and I worked in the city for many years. I've now retired twice. I don't retire well. I found that out about myself.
You'd rather be working.
I'd rather be doing something
Yeah.
than sitting on the couch and yelling at the legislators on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, the attitude is, it seems to be, people aren't capable of taking care of things, not even their own affairs. The government has to do it all. And we have to give these big tax gifts to companies to have them move here. We have to tax people to death, like you're saying. $1.5 billion new tax dollars were done in the last session, a 17% raise in the state budget. And here we are in the private sector is going downhill.
It is, and I absolutely agree with everything you said. That's exactly how I feel about it. And if people are not, savvy enough to understand what can happen in the state, all they have to do is look to the west. Look at our state to the west in California, my home state, where I was born and raised. I was a police officer in that state. I was a volunteer fireman in that state. It's almost a wasteland over there anymore. New businesses going into California, I don't know how they can survive. And so we used to have those businesses coming here to Nevada.
Yeah.
When was the last time any of us heard on the radio spots, come to Nevada, incorporate Nevada, bring your company to Nevada?
Well, they're still trying to say it.
But it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, yeah. You have to. They say because of the education system, it's so bad that companies won't move here.
Exactly.
But what do? Did they give Faraday education? Did they promise to improve the education? No,
Right.
they gave them tax.
Absolutely.
Tax advantages.
And tax advantages sounds great. That sounds wonderful. And you know what? If you can get them, good for you. But who's paying for those?
But all of us should get tax advantages.
Exactly.
It should be a level playing field and not sitting and judging who's winners and losers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We have our education. You brought up our education industry here, if you will. It is the lowest in almost the country across the board. And it doesn't need to be that way. We need to reallocate the assets that are going into our education system and make it more profitable.
Well,
And you can do that without raising taxes.
well, their mantra is more money, more money, more money, more money.
If you
And
believe that pumping money into anything is the way to go, it is not.
especially a losing thing.
Exactly.
And that seems to be the principle on which government agencies operate.
Correct.
The worse they are, the more they need money and the more money they want.
Give us more
It's
money and we'll make it better.
Yeah, it's always that.
Reallocate what you have.
Yeah,
And let's earmark the money that we send to you instead of just sending you a lump sum and you guys figure it out. No, that doesn't work anymore.
yeah. So are you in favor of the education savings accounts, the
Most certainly
ESAs?
am.
Well, why are you in favor of those?
There was a gentleman, I don't remember his name. Anyway, he advocated that leave the education spending to the parents. Let the parents decide where their kids are going to go to school.
And that's what the ESA is designed.
Exactly. Let the parents have a voice in the education of their children. Now they don't have that voice. You send them to
No,
school.
well, they're not. Didn't you know that they're not competent? Only the Clark County School District is competent. The one that has all these failures.
I take huge umbrage with that mentality. There is no one in my outside of my house that can tell me how my 2-year-old son is going to have a better education without my wife and I stepping in and helping him out.
Yeah.
We are both very competent individuals, and I am so demoralized, if you will, that when I have educators tell me that they know how to raise their child better than I do, that absolutely does not work for me. Let the parents have a voice in the education of their kids again.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
Yeah.
This was proposed back in 1869 to let the parents have a voice for their children. And it has not been followed, and here we are today.
How was it expressed in 1869? I'm not familiar with it.
Basically, let the parents have a voice with their children's education.
Is
Pay
that
for
when
those-
public schools started, or was that after? What were their circumstances?
It was
do you know?
basically after the public schools in that area had started.
And what is that area? Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm just drawing blanks on this right now. I don't
It
have
wasn't
an
in
answer.
Nevada because Nevada was only
No, it
4
most
years,
certainly
4
was
years
not
old
Nevada.
at
No,
that
this was
time.
back east. But
Okay.
what I'm saying is that it was proposed that the parent have the right to send their kids to a school that the parent thought was best for the kid. Fund other children by taxing, fund other children that did not have the same opportunity, and pay completely for those children that had no opportunity
Yeah,
to go to a school. So this brings into play our charter schools. This brings into play many, many other aspects of an educational system, of a different educational system, than just by setting up a schoolhouse and throwing money into it.
yeah,
That model no longer works,
yeah,
if it ever did.
yeah. Well, yeah, we're not old enough to know if there was a time that it did work. Although I graduated from a school in Clark County before the Clark County schools were even established back in the 50s.
Yes.
And so we were happy with our school and Boulder City High School.
Look, when parents back in the day, I knew that, this was way before the internet. My parents knew what I did at school before I got home that day.
Oh, really?
They were very friendly with my instructors, much to my chagrin.
Oh, really? Huh.
But I knew stepping off that bus at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I knew my mother and father already knew the stuff that I had gotten into at school that day.
Really?
So.
And this is, how old were you then? You sound like a hellion.
I had my moments.
Was this in grade school or high school?
It was grade school. It was junior high. It was.
And what part of the country?
Central California.
Oh.
I grew up in the citrus belt of California.
Oh, I see.
And a very, very small town in California. It's Exeter, California.
Oh, Exeter. Is
Exeter.
that close to Banos?
Los Banos?
Los Banos, yeah.
It's probably about 2 hours
Oh.
southeast
Oh,
of Los Banos.
Oh, okay. So it's closer to Fresno.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
60 miles south of Fresno.
Oh, south of Fresno.
Between,
Close to
between
Visalia.
Fresno, 15 miles east of Visalia, yes.
Okay, very good. And so did you work on did they set you to work on the farms when you would come home with bad reports? Did they set you to picking oranges?
I think they wanted to indenture me to some of those farms at one point. No, in high school I worked with some of the ranchers there, and we would go out and during the winter months we'd smudge the oranges when the temperatures would get cold at night, and we'd keep the crops warm during the night so they wouldn't freeze and be hit with the frost damage and that kind of thing.
Oh.
But it was a wonderful place to grow up. It was a wonderful time to grow up.
Yeah.
Our parents today do not have the same interaction that our parents had when we were in school.
The same interaction with the school or with the child?
With the child and the school.
Yeah, okay.
They don't have that anymore. They look up on the internet and they see what their child's grades were for that day or whatever, and everything is so automated anymore. They've just lost that touch with the instructor.
So you think it's due to automation?
Not
due to
I think it's,
both parents having to work and not
no,
having...
I think it's due to a lot of things, and that's one that you just touched on. We now need a two-parent family or two-income family to keep anything going anymore.
Yeah,
when we were growing up.
The government is so much intruded in people's lives.
Exactly. And government needs to stand back and let us run our lives.
Yeah. Are there any specific issues that you want to deal with if you get elected to the District 34, Assembly District 34?
I would really like to work on committees that are geared towards our educational system, geared towards our veteran system, and that.
I see.
Those are really the two huge things that are basically interchangeable with me. If I got a call to deal with an educational issue, I'm right there. If I get called to deal with a veteran issue, I'm right there as well.
Yeah. And what was the third one?
The third one that I'm very passionate about is our natural resources in this state.
Oh.
We have a plethora of natural resources in this state that
Okay,
have
so
not
let's
been-
discuss that. No one else has discussed that. What is your view
I'm
about those
looking
sorts
at,
of
well, I'm
things?
looking at the mining industry in this state.
And what's your opinion of it?
Well, you know, we have other countries that benefit from their natural resources. We have other states. And those folks benefit from the natural resources of their state.
Yeah.
Our mining company, our mining industry has been turned over to basically the Washington bureaucrats.
That's right.
And we're not getting anything back from that. We're getting
Virtually
zip.
nothing, that's right.
We're getting
Well,
absolutely.
they pay some local taxes.
Okay.
And they donate money to the schools. And
Okay.
they have a very good PR
Again,
machine.
show me how that money's been beneficial towards our schools.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
We just keep
Well,
throwing more
no,
money.
but
into
they-
it. I don't mean to
They're
get
very
back
much,
into
you're
the
right.
school, but-
Those mining companies are very much tied in to the political elite and certainly to the Washington bureaucracy. So what would you suggest doing about those? And it's interesting to start with that the people that want us to continue having all this federal land worship the federal government and say, oh, they take care of the land. They've allowed the land to just be ripped apart with no regard except to the profits of these mining companies who just haul it off and leave a dump afterwards. And that's that people can actually believe that that's being a good caretaker of lands is just incredible.
Exactly.
But the Democrats unanimously support that system. It's just
Because there's a huge lobbyist firm that comes from that industry that is paying into those campaigns. I get it, I'm seeing how that works.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I agree with it, but we need to reallocate our services and have that come back into our state. We just can't keep giving our state away to special interests.
we're not doing that. It's the Washington bureaucrats that are doing it.
And expect that we're gonna be taken care of.
Yeah.
We absolutely will not be taken care of.
Yeah, yeah, it's proving to be disastrous, but they think it's great. They love this system. So what specifically would you do with regard to the mining?
Well, again, I would like to be in a position that my voice would have an impact on any of the committees that would be looking to reform any of the issues that I feel that need to be addressed. Namely, let's bring that control back to our state.
Okay,
And
and what would you recommend? What is this voice going to say?
well, without actually having the direction right here in front of me that I can see it, I know that there are, as I'm learning this industry now,
Yes,
to be able to sit there and say, look, this is where this is going. This is our ultimate goal over here. How do we get from A to B? We can't get from A to B by going through D and G and H and everything else. We have to get directly to the problem. And if that problem is reforming the industry, reforming how the industry is allocating their spending, then that's fine. We need to look at this.
okay. Because I've studied it somewhat. I lived in Chile during the ferment of the 60s when the Chilean population was against the mines and wanting to have a greater share for the government of Chile of the production of those mines, Kennecott and Anaconda. And Chile now has very advanced laws. Nevada has the backward laws that Chile had back in the 60s. And in fact, our mining law comes from 1872, which is during colonial times virtually, and gives all the rights to the mining company to do anything that they want. And first of all, I would suggest auctioning off the area that is going to be considered and having those funds go into the state. And I would substitute it for other taxes and lower people's property taxes or eliminate the residential tax on residential tax on property, so people really own their houses.
We need to have those benefits coming back to us.
And then there's a very painless way of dealing with getting more out of our resources that are being taken out. That Sarah Palin implemented in Alaska, where as the price of oil there went up, a fund was established that was distributed among all the people, up to 85% over a certain floor, a certain level was put into this fund. Well, if you look at the cost, the value of gold today, $1,200 or whatever it is, and we established that when it reaches 1,500, 20% of anything over 1,500 will come back into the state and or go and be substituted for tax. And I'm not saying new taxes. And then when it reaches 2,000, say 50%. When it reaches 2,500, say 80%
Exactly.
over that amount. That's totally painless, and it relies on a situation where you're not taking anything from the mining company or anything that they created.
Correct.
Any number of mining companies, that's why the value of doing an auction, any number of mining companies in the world could come in and do a mine. That's not the factor. The factor is, the prevailing factor is the quality of the ore that's there. And then the other major factor is the market. So the companies don't have any control over those, states don't have any control over those, but when a state has that resource, they should get something out of it.
Agreed.
That's my take on this.
Agreed.
It could be a very painless way of giving the people a stake in what is really theirs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who owns the mineral rights?
Who owns the mineral rights? Well, if it's on here in Nevada, mostly the owner of the land owns the mineral rights.
So the state owns the mineral rights?
No, the state doesn't own these lands. The federal government, the federal government claims that it owns the lands, and it collects $1 an acre or $2.50 an acre per year or something like that.
And collects a percentage, whatever that may be.
No, they don't project any percentage. They just let mining companies just cart off all the wealth, and then the mining companies pay property tax on equipment and stuff like that, and but it's a minor contribution to the economy. When that economy in Nevada, just gold mining, is $7 to $10 billion a year, which is the size of the gaming economy in the whole state. If it's 10 billion, it's the size of Clark County if it's 7 billion. And yet the gaming economy, that requires management, that requires risk, that requires management, that requires all sorts of things that only people that are qualified can do. The mining depends on two factors: the quality of the deposit and the market. Anyone can go drag out the minerals. No. And yet we tax gaming, but we don't tax, we don't get any benefit from mining.
Because it's on federal land, supposedly.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
If
because
the
they're
federal
using an
government
old
owned the
law.
Casinos.
Pardon?
If the federal government owned the casinos, you'd be.
Oh, but if the federal government owned the casinos, they would be losing money every year.
Right, that's the point.
And then we would be financing the casinos.
My experience in the oil business is usually there's like an eighth of the oil that goes to the property owner in form of the mineral rights.
Oh, really?
And they get that, and
Okay.
then so forth. But if it's on,
Where do they do that?
all over the country that I know of, and if it happens to be on federal land,
Yeah.
the federal land does the same thing. They get the 1/8 percentage of the
Oh,
oil.
no.
Huh?
No, they just charge $2.50 an acre or something like that for the land that's used and let these companies go to it.
Maybe.
And then, if you go to northern and central Nevada, you will see hundreds of square miles of land
Well,
that
how
has
does
been
Alaska,
destroyed
how does
by
Alaska
the
get this
mining.
money?
What?
How does Alaska get this money? I assume that the government there in Alaska, the state owned the mineral rights. Otherwise, where does the
Well,
money
Alaska
come
might be
from?
different,
Yeah.
but I think that they're federal, but Sarah Palin was strong enough to say, no, this system is not going to just benefit the oil companies. And the federal government is going to benefit the people. And so, when oil reaches a certain price, 85% above that price goes into this fund that's paid to the inhabitants of Alaska.
The problem I can see here is that the federal government may say that they own those mineral rights, but those mineral rights exist in the state of Nevada.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
basically, the mineral rights are owned by the people of the state of Nevada.
The land should be.
They should be getting the mineral rights, the state, not the federal government.
Absolutely right. But that's where the problem that we have here. One of the big problems that we have here. Nevada has 110,000 square miles of land. 85% is owned by the federal government. That's about 90,000 square miles. Our economy is based here, 50% of our economy is right here in about 500 square miles, a pinpoint on the map of Nevada, 500 square miles. We have an economy of about $120 billion a year.
How much mining is going on in what is also classified as test site land?
Well, that's test site land is one of the areas owned by the federal government.
Right, and is part of the mining operation,
No.
most of it on test site?
Oh, no,
land?
there's no mining.
So that's different, so there's no mining going on in test site?
No.
Okay, so I'd like to see a map sometime designating what is federal land where the mining is going on and what is the test site. They're two different things in my opinion.
Well,
I can understand the test site being a different operation for the federal government than anything else. It supersedes the state of Nevada in a way.
Well, at least it qualifies under the constitutional demands
Right.
that this is
The mineral rights
needful
don't.
land, it's for forts and other stuff like
The
that.
mineral rights don't. That money's going to some slush fund for some.
That's right, exactly.
for
That's
some that
right.
The people of Nevada aren't.
Exactly.
benefiting from.
We never see it, we have no control over it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They just auctioned off federal property Tuesday, I think it was, 2 days ago, and got $97 million. Where does the $97 million go? Well, 15% of it goes for parks and stuff like that. The rest of it is just sent off to Washington, D.C. We need, of our land, why can't this money stay here and help build the stadium or help build extend the convention center or do these other things?
We have infrastructure in the state that money could very easily be used for.
Well, plus it's
Instead of
also
taxing-
those
instead of taxing
fundamental
our-
rights of the state rights, when they became,
There are no state rights under
that's-
Marbury versus Madison. The federal government prevails, and it's true, the federal government pays for a certain dollar amount for, not a certain dollar, a variable dollar amount for schools and when it has air bases and military, other facilities. But in Nevada, we get like something like 2 cents an acre or something like that.
That's a number that I've heard, yes.
It's just some incredible
so does the government gets, let's say, $1 an acre, just for a reference? So we're getting 2% of what the government gets?
No, 2 cents
2 cents of what?
per acre of land that they
Well, how much
own.
is the dollar? How much is the dollar value of the land that they lease out to the mining companies per acre, per whatever?
Well, they only charge $2.50 an acre or something like that.
$2.50.
Yeah.
We get 2 cents.
Well, of all the federal land, it's my understanding that the state gets 2 cents. There are about 70 million acres of land or 60 or 70
That's
million
right. Just
acres
give my
of
reference
federal
to
land
2 cents of what?
per acre.
Apple.
So there's
Okay,
two,
so if you
2
use
cents
250
times
per acre-
60 million acres is what? $6 million, something like that. It's some small
It's
amount,
minuscule.
but even if we're a dollar,
It's
it's
a pittance
ridiculous.
in the overall picture.
What?
It's a pittance in the overall picture.
Yeah, and even if it were a dollar or $10, it's still not fair to the state, because we have all these for example, we have all these distances here. We have to build roads between all these disparate areas that are privately controlled, that are not federally controlled, and it's just so unbelievable to have this monster in the state that gobbles up all this land and makes us pay all the consequences of it. But the Democrats and Harry Reid
There you
think
go.
this is just
I was waiting for
fabulous.
that name.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah, that's been the problem. That's right.
So, the other thing that I'm very passionate about are the veterans issues that we have in this state.
And what are those issues?
Well,
That's a legitimate. It
it's-
seems to me that's a legitimate federal issue.
most of it is. But when you are driving, when you take a drive through the east side of town, northeast section of downtown, and you see you see these folks sitting there with, there's signs out, homeless vet.
Yeah.
And you start to talk to these folks.
Do you believe everything you see on a sign in the street?
Absolutely not. I am a retired police officer. However, when
Do you believe everything you see in the press?
But you know what? There
No.
are times that
No.
I will go down there and just get out of the car. It's what I did when I was a cop, and just start walking on the street. How you doing? What's going on? Why are you here? Why do you have a sign that says
So-
homeless vet? Are you a veteran? I am. Well, what's the problem? I can't get into the VA. What do you mean you can't get into it? Well, I tried this and this and this. And you find out, as you start drilling this thing down, you find out that this individual definitely opened up a case with the VA, and he got pigeonholed in so many different directions, you just absolutely lose the intestinal fortitude to keep promoting your case with the VA. We have, there's a group of folks that I've been working with here in town through the Veterans Outreach Center that are just doing wonderful things for our vets and getting them back into the system, getting them back into the VA. Once they're into the VA, once they're into that system, and they've got all of the dots signed and T's crossed and all that kind of thing, they seem to get through it all right. But it's just getting them into the front door that is just so horrible for these folks.
And these people that are doing this, are they part of the VA or are they outside?
This is all outside. They're not trying
Well,
to
So it's
do the
volunteer, it's not state and it's not
Exactly,
federal.
it's not.
It's different.
And it's a nonprofit. I've worked with them. I've been to a couple of their events, and they're just doing wonderful things.
Well, anyone knows what the problem is. The VA doesn't have enough money.
Okay.
That's why we had to
All
give
right,
them,
so here
for
we
their
go
bad
again.
job they're doing, we had to give them $10 billion more.
Here we
The
go
money's
again.
going to foreign governments to support their wars
All right,
and not going to our veterans.
gentlemen, this is the whole thing that I'm running on, is that we have got to stop taxing our people and throwing that money just into the wind, hoping to God that it's going to sort itself out. It absolutely will not. These groups need to be held accountable. Okay?
These groups meaning the VA.
The VA, the school district, okay?
Yeah.
These folks need to be held accountable. And on top of that, it just keeps going on with me, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Go ahead.
The issue with the VA, we need to throw more money into it. Okay, so what have you done for us lately? What have you done for our vets lately? There's a problem. It's the same thing with our school district. There's a problem with our school district, so let's just throw more money into it. It does
That's
not
the
work.
eternal solution.
It is not the eternal solution. The eternal solution is let's stop this hemorrhaging of money. And let's sit down and figure out whose fault is what. Okay? Is this money just going out without being earmarked? Is this money going out without any checks and balances to it? If that's a problem, then that stops. Now we set up a committee and we watch the money. When I was a detective, if I needed to find a bad guy, it's very simple. You follow the money and you follow it everywhere it goes, and you will find, okay, this needs to be fixed, that needs to be fixed. This one's all right, that one's a little weird, but we can work with that. And as you start reforming some of these avenues, if you will see that we don't need to spend more money. We just need to be smarter at how we spend it.
Yeah.
And we just don't write a blank check and say, here folks, here's $10 million, go fix it. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because what happens is at the next legislative session, our taxes are going up again. It does not need to happen that way.
Yeah, but the whole system is set up for that. There's in doing the budgeting, they don't look at the programs and how a program is operating, how efficiently, how much it contributes. They don't look at any of that to start with. They start with, oh, here's my list of dreams, and there is no talk at any time of performance. And they reject. They reject performance. They just want the money.
So
that's all they care about.
Businessmen running the government.
Let me give you the best analogy that I could come up with here. You're going to build a house. You're going to build a 2,500 square foot home. Okay? You talk to your contractor. You know that he's got an army of subs and that type of stuff. And you're going to write him a check for $500,000 for this house.
Yeah.
Okay? You're just going to give him a check, and then you're going to go on vacation for the next 9 months. And when you come back, it's going to be sitting there and everything's going to be fine. You really believe that's going to happen? Or are you going to be on that job site 2 or 3 times a week, making sure that your money is being spent correctly?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
No. Well, for the
Me,
government,
I'm going to be on that job site.
Yeah, but
2 or 3 times a week.
government officials don't do that. They go on the job site, they make friends with the guy,
Because
and
they
then he
have-
tells them how he needs more money.
Because
and then
they have you and I to come back to
That's
and
right,
say, I
exactly.
need more money for this.
That's
And I'm one
exactly.
of the guys that are sitting here going, I'm done paying you clowns. I'm done
That's
paying.
right. Yeah, that's right.
I want to know where my money's going.
You have these contracts to build these jets that the generals don't want because they won't fly, but the companies building the jets give contributions to the politicians that okay these jets.
There you go.
But they don't fly, but that's beside the point because the politicians are getting paid.
Yeah.
It permeates to everything, all throughout government.
Yeah,
It's
all they're interested in is spending,
Yeah.
getting more money to spend more.
So let's elect a new slate of legislators, folks that are going to go up there.
Wait a minute.
That's going to be on that job site to watch where this money's going.
Wait a minute, we elected those in 2014.
And we're gonna elect different people this time, I guarantee you. Because the voters are a little pissed off at what happened before, where liars show up and then they
Exactly.
don't follow through. That's
Exactly.
the whole thing that's going on in the whole country right
Yeah.
now.
Well-
Outsiders.
But that's what these people did. We thought we were
Grassroots
getting one
is the only way to
thing,
get
and they turned out to be this, not only as bad as, but worse.
Right.
And they joined
So
with the
you-
Democrats and took things even
So
further.
do you keep that vendor and just keep throwing more money towards that vendor? Or do you
Yeah.
get rid of that vendor
You get out the
and get a new
plows.
one?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they don't want to look at that because they don't want any
They don't wanna lose their power.
ripples in their next
The
campaign.
RNC's got a big ripple going on right now. They're gonna learn that there's change coming.
Man, yeah.
Well,
And it
they
has
just
to come
want-
from change is coming. And it
Yeah.
has to come from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And it has to come from the top down.
Yeah.
We're gonna elect someone to start at the top down, and in the meantime, we're gonna start from the bottom up. And maybe we meet in the middle someday.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's a lot of work to do, and it has to start somewhere, so we're marching towards a cliff.
a lot of people
It's
are
not gonna
upset
get
about
better.
that.
Yeah.
This conflict, but I think it's very healthy. The Democrats don't have that
Otherwise, it'll
problem
never
because they just vote in a block.
Right.
Everything is more government.
But they're gonna run
Everything,
out of
more
other
government,
people's
more
money.
government.
Tax and spend,
They're
tax and
gonna
spend,
run out of
tax and
other
spend.
people's money, and $20 trillion we've run out already. So,
I
you know,
I
it's
think
gonna
we
be-
ran out a long time
You're gonna
ago.
run out of that Nancy Pelosi philosophy where unemployment's good, because for every dollar we spend, we get $1.79 back.
Yeah.
That's the kind of non-business thinking that we have to wipe out.
But you gotta
because
vote
that
for it
doesn't
before
work.
you find out how badly we're gonna
Well,
screw
it
it.
just
Yeah.
permeates throughout her whole being. She is clueless. She's the people that Donald Trump talks about that are morons running this country. And that's what we got.
And those are the folks that,
They have to
the
be
constituents
exterminated.
that I am talking to as I'm walking my district every day, those are the folks that I'm running into.
Right,
Have
let's
you
hope
signed the contract with Nevada? Yes, I have. And are you
Yeah.
going to vote for our taxes? No, I'm not. I've signed a contract.
So you've signed the taxpayer
I most
pledge?
certainly have.
Yeah. Well, interesting, it was fabulous having you here. Good luck with your campaign. Do you want to tell people how they can contribute to it? Or
Yes,
how-
Mr. Ewing,
how-
my
how,
website is www.hagansfornevada.com.
Is that a letter for, or a?
Letter for F-O-R.
Oh, okay.
Hagans, F-O-R, and
A
Hagans
three-letter
is spelled
okay.
H-A-G-A-N-S,
Okay.
Marty. And they can go on my website. It's a one-stop website. They can see everything that I'm looking at and representing. They can donate there. And, you know, it's funny, the one thing that I did not realize about politics is the amount of money that it takes to fund a campaign.
No, that's true.
I am absolutely blown away by the amount of money that you need to have to fund
Yeah.
one of these campaigns. So if, you know, if...
And you have a primary coming up in June?
In June.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
Okay.
So I
Well-
appreciate the time to be here with you gentlemen.
Well-
It was a wonderful experience, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, sir.
For coming in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Marty?
Sir.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Yeah. That's Marty Hagans, District 34.
Assembly District 34.
Yeah, Assembly District. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so
Okay.
much. Well, that seemed painless.
That was painless? Oh, really?
Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank
It was a
you.
pleasure.
Okay.
When you mentioned that you...
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity again.
Let's have you sit here.
Do you have a,
Yes, right here.
story?
Yes. Did you meet Ron? Yeah. Oh, okay. Did you meet Marty?
Good afternoon, Las Vegas. This is Clark coming to you with a 2 o'clock show today, The Herd, live from Las Vegas. Occasionally throughout this week and in the next week too, we'll be scheduling some candidates that are running for the Assembly and the state here and the Senate in cooperation with Ed Euling to get the word out about the people running for office. So we're starting another show now, and with us we have Ronald Newsom, who will be joining you, Ed, for this show.
Yes, that's
Ronald
right.
Newsom. He's
Ron
running
Newsom.
for the Assembly.
Assembly District 17.
Okay, welcome, Ron. Have a seat.
Welcome, Ron.
Join the
Yeah,
show.
Have a seat.
And
Thank you for coming in.
We're on the air now, so you can weigh in with who you are and what your platform is. And
Here, sit a little
And,
bit more. Yeah, okay.
Oh.
So you can be seen on YouTube.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
tell
So
us what you're all about and what your plans are.
tell us about yourself and about District 17.
Well, I'm running for Assembly District 17. I've lived there about 8 years now. Been in Nevada close to 35 years. Single parent. I have 2 boys, grown now.
When you say grown, what does grown mean?
Well, they're both legal adults.
Oh,
My oldest is turning 30 this year, and my youngest is turning 23.
really?
I know, hard to believe. Seems like yesterday I was putting diapers on them, but
Really?
they're full grown now.
And what do they do?
Well, my oldest is special needs, and he has a job. He works now over at UNLV in the dining commons, and my youngest is kind of job to job.
Oh, really?
He's in Reno now working there.
Oh,
You know.
oh, very good. And you adopted them, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've had them both since they were babies, and it was good, you know, I mean, I don't look at them as adopted children, but,
Yeah.
that's a biased dad, so.
Oh. So, and you lived here 35 years. What made you decide to run for assembly?
Well, this is my second race. I did run once in 2008 for Senate. Running for assembly now, it's more, I'm really tired of the crime going up, the taxes going up, the cost of living going up, and the people are giving and we're getting nothing back. And it's time to put a stop to it.
And any particular aspects, particular areas that you're interested in addition to stopping the taxation, the continual taxation?
Well, as far as I'm concerned with taxes, any new tax I will vote no for. I don't care what it is or what it's for. I mean, we don't need any more taxes. I think we.
Say they start taxing prostitution, would you vote for that tax?
No,
No? Not even that?
no.
No.
If it's a new tax.
They're asking to be taxed.
If it's
That's they want to be taxed.
I don't think it's fair.
That's a trick question.
I know it is, but I don't think it's fair to tax. And we've tried it, where we tax an individual entity. I think what's fair for one's fair for all. And if we tax, as your joking question, of prostitution, I mean, that's a service-based industry. I'm guessing, I've never partaken in it, but.
You wouldn't know anything about it.
Right,
No.
but, you know, that opens the door to let's tax haircuts, let's tax other services that have never been taxed before. But I think we have enough revenue coming in that better management is what's needed, not new taxes.
But all people pay taxes on their income. It's so ironic that we punish the things that help the economy, that help people. We punish people who go to work. We punish companies who pay salaries to pay. There must be a better system to encourage those people. Now last time they passed a margins tax to tax the income. In other words, the more successful you are, then you're going to get taxed if you're successful.
And it's a gross tax, so it has nothing to do with profit.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with.
You may be losing money, now you're paying more taxes, and you're losing money. Stupid. But that's a non-businessman passing taxes.
And it's the ones that want to reap the rewards of taxes that seem to push taxing everyone that succeeds. So if you go to school and you open a business and you start succeeding, we're going to tax you right into bankruptcy.
Well, you didn't build that, remember? You started a business, you didn't build that business.
It was the government.
It was the government that taxed, the roads, you didn't build those roads. You didn't build that infrastructure, although you did because your taxes built that. So the guy that said that's completely wrong, as he is with everything else that comes out of his mouth. He's a liar.
That I agree on.
Right, and he's extortionist. So the problem with the governments is they have to have a budget, and they have to live within that budget. And they can never increase the percentage or whatever that is. That's why I'm an adamant supporter, as good and as bad as it may be, on a consumption tax. Start taxing productivity and start taxing consumption. And then that's it. Whatever that percentage is, that's it. Now as the GMP goes up, guess what? The revenue goes up too. But the percentage does not go up ever. You have to live on that. If you don't, you're like a person, you gotta cut somewheres. Because your percentage is not gonna
Well,
go up.
that's one thing the government just does not accept. They want to be immune from any downturns. They want their employees to be immune.
I'm sorry, the
against those
key to your
things.
office doesn't work anymore. We've changed your lock. And that's what it has to come to. We have to go to the people.
Somehow. And is there any possibility of that though?
Well, politicians don't like that particular consumption tax because it takes away all their Santa Clausness. They can't buy votes anymore.
Yeah.
That goes out the window. That's why you'll never get it through until you get all of those people out the door first before you try to tax
Yeah.
it. to pass that.
Yeah, yeah, he's right.
But the basic of it is they do away with the IRS, your income is no longer taxed. Your check is your whole check, 100%. There's nothing taken out of it. Because when you buy something, now you're paying for unemployment, for Social Security, for Medicaid, for all those things the government gives you, has to come out of when you buy something. You're no longer taxed on your income. This country's productivity would explode. It would go off the charts.
Yeah, people,
And all the
producers
money
would
of
be
these
motivated.
drug dealers are out buying their Lamborghinis are also paying an additional 20% on their Lamborghini, and they can't do without it because they just can't, they won't get the car.
Yeah.
So they're gonna pay.
How do they spend all that money?
Exactly right. So all that money comes out of the woodwork and everything else, and then you're running a government that has to be budgeted, because you will never be able to raise by law, by whatever you pass, the amendment to the Constitution or what have you, you can never raise that percentage. Pick a number, 20%, never goes up, ever. It can't go up, because the whole system goes up naturally with the increase in GNP and so forth and inflation. It's gonna go up, meaning the government's gonna get more money. Then you have to live with it, I'm sorry.
But the governments can't live with downturns. They think they should be immune to them.
They cut.
But we in the private sector are, no problem with us being subjected to
But
downturns.
that's the problem.
They don't care about us.
That's
What
poor management.
are some of your, in addition to taxation, what are other issues are you particularly interested in?
The criminal.
Okay.
The criminal system. I am very adamant, and I think especially victims of crime should be more involved with sentencing. It should be mandatory that the victim agrees to the sentencing, especially if a plea deal is involved. I mean, these plea deals given to felons, and they're let out on the street, you know, with no regards to the victim, no restitution to the victim, and add to, as well as the restitution should be made part of the plea agreement. And if they fail to pay and live up to the restitution, then you didn't fulfill the agreement, so you go in. You know, basically, we're slapping the hands of these criminals and letting them back out on the street, and they're turning around, reoffending. Now, we've seen on the news recently, we're up to 63 murders already this year. You know, and the message isn't that we don't have enough police. The message isn't the police department or whatever agency it is involved isn't doing their job. It's we're telling these criminals, go ahead and commit the crimes, because you'll be lucky to serve 6 months to a year and be back out doing it again.
So you would like to enlarge the jails?
Not necessarily enlarge.
We already have more people in jail than any other country in the world. And on a per capita basis, we have at least four times what any other country has.
So they say. You
Oh,
know,
you don't
but
believe
how many are repeat revolving door criminals that are going in and out, and of course that ups the figures on the jail count.
Well, it's very easy to become a revolving person here. If you can't afford to pay your fine, they'll put you in jail. And then you have a jail
That
thing to
becomes your
deal
life.
with.
You're in jail. That's it. You're in jail.
You lose your
That's all you
job,
know.
you get out of, then you can't get a job.
And the government stops you from being productive.
I admit that this is an issue, you know, with the jail, and that we arrest people and we throw them in. And that's a problem on the other side. My issue mostly with the criminal and the plea agreements is the victim is the one that's re-victimized again by the system, by the government. They're totally discounted and not even talked to half the time by the DA's office in making these pleas. And when I watch a 9 felony charge count get dropped to a gross misdemeanor, and then only through a loophole it was up to 1 felony count and released after only 10 months in jail, and reoffended within 8 hours of being released, and still on the street because the judges won't sentence them to more jail time or prison, they will give them another chance.
Yeah.
And as for the overcrowding, yeah, that is an issue, and that is a problem, and maybe prioritized. If we're gonna release misdemeanor cases, then you slap an armband on their ankles and we know what they're doing. It would be cheaper to armband them or ankle band them, whatever you call it, and have them on arrest at home at their own expense and make them pay for that band to have that freedom at least at home and monitor them that way. That is a lot cheaper than housing them in a jail.
Yeah.
But as for the overcrowding, you know what, if a criminal wants to complain about the overcrowding and the food is horrible, that's tough, don't commit the crimes. I
But
have
most
no
of-
sympathy for them.
You're looking at the victim, but most people are in jail for victimless crimes, like using drugs or like.
Really, is
or
using drugs a
prostitution.
victimless crime? I mean,
What?
you
How-
hurt society, you
how do you hurt
endanger
society?
society. I mean, if they're in there as a meth head, and the case I was referred to earlier was a big major drug user and tried to use that in the defense.
What do you mean, try to use what in the defense?
As a victim.
That he's a victim of society, he's a victim of drug abuse.
Oh,
But,
I see.
you know, it was your choice to pop that needle in your arm, you know, and
You mean someone else forced him to do it?
no,
The
it
government's
was
fault
his
for letting the
choice.
drugs be available that he could put it in his arm. It's always a government, somebody's fault. It's never the
That's right.
person's, never
That's
the
right.
criminal's
Okay.
fault.
And then on the low end, we'll just say, you know, they pull this, you know, mental problems, or they're mentally you know, they weren't aware of what they were doing. Well, you know, in my book, and as any victim will tell you, what criminal in their right mind commits the crimes they do and causes a victim? I don't believe there is truly the percentage of victimless crimes. Someone is paying that bill. Whether, even if it was just a paper crime, in the end, the people are the victims. Let's say, for instance, a shoplifting crime. Okay.
Well, that's not a victimless crime. If you
Correct.
shoplift, you're taking someone's property.
Correct.
But if you smoke a marijuana cigarette, how does that victimize anyone?
Well, if it's, well, you're using marijuana, let's say snorting coke.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's say a
If
person
they're-
shoots himself up with heroin. How does that, who's the victim?
It still comes down to society would be the victim,
Why?
at least. I mean, in the aspect of, if there was an arrest made, okay, there was some criminal activity there. So now you've cost the taxpayers money.
No, but
And-
the arrest is that, as soon as you arrest that person who's just endangering his own life, then you're creating victims. Yes, the society is a victim, because we have to pay that police officer to go do something that someone else is doing.
Okay,
And
you-
now, if that person were slugging someone, or were holding a gun to their head, or something like that, yeah,
So your
he should be
solution is
arrested.
legalize drugs.
Well, yeah, of
Is
course.
that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that.
But-
But I believe,
it's-
okay,
it's
you
the
mean, the
prohibition.
person at the time may have been arrested on as you call, a victimless crime, in the aspect that at that moment it was a victimless crime. But if he was, in this case, we're using a drug addict, a meth head shooting up, okay, obviously this person isn't holding a job, so how did he get the money to pay for these drug abuse? Is he selling his extra quantity? He's victimizing somewhere along the line. I don't believe that there's truly a victimless crime. And it doesn't matter if it's victimless. If society says that this is illegal, it puts the public at risk, then it's a crime.
But that's when you create criminals. Let's look at prohibition. People were drinking alcohol back in the 1900s, early 1900s, and then all of a sudden a bunch of people get on their pulpits and all that and say, "Oh, they're victimizing the people. They're criminals." And so we declared it a crime. So at that moment, when we start arresting people for drinking and for producing alcohol and for distributing alcohol and so on, what happened? We created a monster, a real criminal enterprise. dozens of criminal enterprises that now the people with the guns can get this thing done. Now we bribe public officials. Now we are selling to children. Now we're, those are the crimes. Those are real crimes. But who benefits from those crimes? The drug dealer and the police. Those are the two beneficiaries of prohibitionist activities. And the Declaration of Independence says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If someone wants to shoot themselves up with drugs, how is that victimizing anyone any more than another person whose pursuit of happiness is going to church?
Well, I think if you're going to put somebody in jail, you have to make jail unbearable. You can't make it a country club. You can't allow TV. You can't do all that stuff that the goody two-shoe liberals, oh, you can't do that to a poor person. No, you can't. You need a Joe Arpaio type philosophy. Put them in pink underwear and let them live out in the goddamn desert at 120 degrees and see how long you like that and see how if you're a repeat offender or not.
And what do?
You can't make them a country club.
You create monsters out of the jail.
But you
That's
keep
what
them in
happened.
jail.
What?
You don't let them out of jail. You keep them in jail.
Oh, anyone who commits a crime, we keep them in jail for life.
No,
for life.
But if they get out of jail, they're going to have a tendency not to want to go back in.
Well,
the problem is
that strategy does not work.
Well,
people are seriously damaged by their experience in jail and become monsters in society. And our society has a massive repetition. What do they call that?
You exterminate them like other countries do that don't have the jail problem that we referred to earlier. We have 4 times the people in jail because other countries don't allow them to go to jail. They exterminate them.
No, they don't. That's ridiculous.
Well, how do they do it then?
They treat them like human beings. A person, just because a person,
you gotta make the crime.
So you're saying
just
you want
because a person
euthanasia
commits
laws.
a crime, just because a person commits a crime does not make him a subhuman. You don't gain anything by putting that person down any further.
Making them, so you eliminate the laws you're talking about, make drugs legal or whatever. Now, if you do a crime because you're high, then you go to jail and you don't want to be in jail. So maybe when you get out, you won't be high anymore either.
Ed, let me ask you a question.
It's a problem.
You're kind of a good example, just by what your statements is already, you're making the argument for the criminal. And you say that they're traumatized by being in jail. Good, because that stops you from going. When you feared dad with the belt back in the day, you were a good boy at school. But
And notice we don't use those tactics anymore because they don't
That's
work.
why we have a
They
bigger
create violent people.
I disagree with that. I think because the
How many
do-gooders
kids-
who don't want to discipline their children, and I'm not saying beat your kids or we should beat up inmates.
Well, you are saying that
But-
because that's what used to happen.
you-
I was
I
raised
said
in the
spanking. I
50s.
said
I was
spanking.
raised in the 40s and 50s, and I know that's how parents dealt with kids, and they don't do that today.
Because of the
Spanking.
liberals,
What?
where the kids sue the parents because they did it.
Yeah.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
That's a totally different issue.
Well,
When
it's
when you abuse a child, and children used to be abused a lot, when you abuse a child, you create a monster who's going to abuse his child and going to abuse.
Yeah, but define abuse. Spanking your child
Is discipline.
is discipline.
I'm not talking.
In a proper
I'm
method.
not talking-
I'm not saying take a 2x4 to your child's head.
Well, this is what
You know,
happens. This is what happens in those situations.
And
That's what used to happen.
That is a criminal that should be arrested for child abuse.
Well,
But-
they didn't
but
arrest people in
back
the
then,
old days.
Back then,
Yeah.
but the majority, and it has been proven in the favor of discipline, that disciplining your children in what they refer to as corporal martial does make a
Corporal
difference.
punishment.
And they actually encourage you to do that today.
To do what?
Social service will encourage you, use discipline, but there's a difference between beating your child and spanking your child and disciplining them. There's a difference between locking up a criminal and abusing an inmate. I don't agree with the inmate. Like Joe and his tent farm or tent jail, statistics proved in his favor. The crime dropped, you know, and the criminals that remain in there are repeat offenders. So why should they be staying at the Hilton? But you talk about the traumatizing.
We're not talking about staying at the
an
Hilton.
inmate.
No one has said that.
But you talk about they're traumatized at being in jail and all that. What about the victims? The victims that live their life in fear, or you know, put gates on their houses at their expense and live under lock and key. And I know people that are shut-ins because they have been victimized and so traumatized by it, they will not leave their homes. And thank God for the internet in the aspect of they can do their shopping and buying and socializing through the internet because they will not leave their homes. That is a true victim.
So you're saying there are people that are so traumatized that stay in their homes because they're afraid that the perpetrator of a crime will come after them.
Correct. As well, no, not that they're afraid that the offender will come and re-offend with them. I mean, that is a possibility in some cases, and it does happen in some cases.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about they've been so traumatized that now they fear walking out their door. They hear the news, they see these stories where the criminals are walking the streets, and they're scared. It's just like some that have been victimized and so traumatized in car accidents won't get back in a car again, won't drive a car again. And I mean, that is a true victim.
So,
You know.
so which is more dangerous in our society? All the gangs in Las Vegas or the uniform gang that we have? The police department. Which are people more afraid of? When you drive around, are you worried about that some gang member is going to come and do something to you? Or are you worried about some policeman is going to come and arrogantly jump all over you for something, some minor thing like not signaling lanes or something like that? Are you more afraid of the police, or are you more, and the government officials, or are you more afraid of the gangs?
Asking that question as you ask it, I'm not afraid of either one of them. I'm 53 years old. I have never once feared pulling up next to a cop or a policeman, and I've never feared walking down the sidewalk and passing one and feared that he was going to suspect me of that I just finished robbing a house and he's going to beat me up and put me in the street. I've never had that fear. As for gangs, I mean, I've been in nervous situations where...
What gang kills 10 people a year, or 12 people a year, or it used to be 25 people? Fortunately, we've reduced the number of people being killed by the government.
And Lombardo, our sheriff, is blaming the fact that California has a depopulation program going on in the prisons in California.
And that's typical government. Blame everyone else. But who sets the pace? Who sets the pace of whether a society is going to be calm or whether it's going to be violent? It's the leaders who set that pace, and the Metro Police Department has set the Metro Police Department. Can I finish?
Yeah.
Okay. The Metro Police Department has clearly set a tradition of violence, of lying in court, of writing false reports, of overcharging people, of mistreating people in jail. Let's go to the case that they're considering now, where the guard fired the shotgun, what do they call those? Like that you use. That you use to shoot birds and rabbits and things like that. No, it has many different pellet gun or shotgun.
Yeah,
okay, they use this tactic in Nevada jails more than almost any other state in the union. That if someone is fighting, there were two inmates, both of them.
Like rubber bullets or something?
No, let me finish and I'll make it clear. I never said rubber bullets. I said shotgun. Shotgun. Okay, the situation was out in Indian Springs, a state institution. The two inmates were, for some reason, decided that they were going to have a fight. They were both they were both handcuffed and they were kicking. So the tactic used here by the police or the guards is to shoot a pellet gun or one of these shotguns at the floor, and then it scares. It's supposed to scare people.
Right.
Well, they shot the thing many times, and eventually killed one of the inmates. One of the two people that was handcuffed got killed. And he was shot like 200 times. He had 200 pellets in his face and in his neck. And what did they do? They charged the other one with the murder of that guy.
He was handcuffed too.
Who was also handcuffed.
But to clarify, though, you're not
this
talking
is the
about a
level of
jail.
violence of our state.
But to clarify though, you are not talking about a jail.
That's a
because
jail. That happened in jail.
That sounds
happened
like
in
a
Indian
prison.
Springs.
That's a prison.
Oh, okay.
Okay, they're two different worlds.
Oh, okay.
You know, a prison is different than a jail, and the inmates are treated differently, and that's a different world. I'm not familiar with that particular
what does he run?
case.
A jail or a prison?
I'm sorry?
What does Arpaio run? A jail or a prison?
A jail. He runs the county jail.
Okay.
The sheriff, it's the
okay.
sheriff. The sheriff.
Oh,
runs-
okay.
The sheriff
Okay.
runs the jails, not the
Okay.
prisons.
So go ahead,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But that's a different world.
Different
I'm not
world.
familiar, so I really can't comment on that particular case. I believe in
It
transparency.
just came out that the state had lied, totally lied, and charged the other guy with the murder. They fired the,
Look at the case, I forget where it was, but they shot a kid 16 times, and it took a year for the video to come out.
yeah, there's another one.
A
Yeah.
year for the video to come
Yeah,
out.
so what I'm saying is the police are the criminals.
You're
The
talking about
government is the
Chicago.
criminals.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But a year, they were hiding it for a year, probably till someone got out of office, you know. I don't know, but the cops and
Let-
so forth do go over the line a lot.
Okay,
and they seem to be going.
they've created the atmosphere of violence in a society.
Okay.
And Lombardo is blaming the people.
I agree, there's something to
Yeah.
be said about it, but that's another problem that we're addressing, trying to, what's the solution to all this?
They run
We're
around in all these,
viable.
they run around in all these machines as if there's some kind of occupying army in Afghanistan.
And they have an
Now we're to Afghanistan.
It's terrible. We have an occupying army. We don't have police
Let me ask
anymore.
you this, let me ask you this. We're sitting here, we're looking out that window, and a man walks down, well, let's say a woman is walking down, she's holding a knife in her hand, and she looks like she's on the way to do bodily harm to somebody. Police are in suit, and they're ordering her on loudspeakers, guns pointed, stop, get on your knees, drop the weapon. And she refuses and continues to go on.
Okay.
Do they have the right to shoot her?
Of course
And-
not.
and use
That is so
bodily-
outrageous. They can just wait there until she gets hungry and decides to do
No,
something.
she's on the move. She's on the move. She's trying to evade them
Well,
on
you-
the way. But let's add to it. On the way down the
If she
street,
were to-
she passes a woman and a child at a bus stop that's waiting for the bus, and she grabs the child, and now she has a hostage she's holding at gunpoint.
Well,
So is it the police's fault that they didn't stop her before she got to the bus stop? Or this is an armed woman being ordered to stop and probably be detained and refusing to comply with the police orders and demands? What American citizen does not understand when a cop says to you, stop, drop it, and get down? Is it that hard to do? And then, so the cop is wrong if he doesn't shoot, and now another crime's been committed, and he's wrong if he shoots to protect the public, for which we hire him and train to do.
It's a
Well,
tough situation.
But that is the very example, changing the people, of the Chicago case that waited a year to release the video. He had
That
a
is not
knife.
the case.
He had a knife, was on the
wasn't close to
run,
anyone.
evading the police, going down the street. He had already gone a block. The family was paid $6 million within a month after the shooting.
no, that was the kid that was
No,
12-year-old
no,
kid.
that
in
was the
Cleveland that
Chicago
was paid
case.
$6
It
million.
was the Chicago case. A year later, the family did not even want the video released. They tried to stop it. The family did. The family of the person shot. And yes, 40 shots is quite a bit to shoot. But how many bullets does it take? A cop is trained to shoot to kill. If you got a weapon, and I don't decipher the difference between a knife, a butcher knife, a gun, an AK-47. A weapon is a weapon. If you're intending to do bodily harm, the police is ordering you to stop. They have the right, they are trained, they are paid by the taxpayer to protect society. They should have killed him, or shot him, or stopped him in whatever method they could do.
That's right, whatever method. They don't have the responsibility of administering justice. They have the responsibility of arresting the criminal and putting him in
Should they
jail.
have shot him with a taser?
I think he was
Well,
too far away.
they're throwing-
These distances.
But my
are
point
in
is that would be a non-lethal method of stopping someone with a knife. But now, you've got the criminals suing the government and the public because the taser caused neurological damage.
Yeah.
Well,
Goes on.
you already had neurological damage, you just stabbed somebody 20 times.
How many cases of that? How many cases are people getting sued for using tasers?
Several, a lot of police departments have stopped using them.
Really?
Because
I've
of that,
never heard
yes.
of
There's rampant lawsuits.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's crazy.
Because they're saying that, the ones that, there's two
There's
types
even
of
more.
tasers, there's actually three. There's one that's in a hand,
Yeah.
that most people would use as a personal one. Then there's one that's on a stick, like a prod. And then there's to keep the criminal at a distance. Then there's one that they can shoot, and it shoots like, it could also be used as a hand one, but it also could be used, it shoots darts in you.
Yeah.
And they have to the point where now most states have made it illegal for you as a private citizen to carry and use a taser as well as the pepper spray, because now that causes skin problems and rashes
Because
and
some
eye
hungry lawyer
irritation.
wants a suit
Correct,
where there's a pocket.
correct.
And it's not because they're afraid that you'll use it.
So the same do-gooders that
Yeah.
preach these laws are and did and encourage all that are the same ones that are now
No one
saying
is encouraged.
we have
I have never
eliminated,
heard a
we have
person
eliminated
encouraging
taser.
crime.
No, we've eliminated
Except for the police, they encourage
encouraging
crime all the time.
lawsuits to sue because the taser caused you neurological damage. The same people that have, now we've taken away the tasers, we've taken away this. Why not take away handcuffs? Because they injure the wrist.
Well,
So what did you leave the cop left with? His mouth and his gun.
well, they have a lot more than that. And they misuse the guns. We have an inordinate number of people in this country killed by police when they don't have to be killing people. They could wait and arrest people. We could cite any number of cases, and where they file false police reports, and then where they go to court and they lie in the court.
That's all the time.
And
Call
we
the lie
have
and drop 'em a hat.
look what the police union did here. Detective Yant executed that minor marijuana dealer. I've forgotten his name, something. And in the bathroom, he was putting marijuana in the toilet, and he executed him. He lied in the lied. No one, I went to the inquest. No one could believe anything that he said. And what did the police union do? They hired him as to be in their leadership. He's in the leadership of the police union here. And the taxpayers are paying for the police union. There's another thing. Why are the taxpayers paying for union duties? And no one sues the government more than the union. And you're saying people sue the government. You can't sue the government. The maximum you can get is $50,000, except under extreme circumstances, and it costs you $120,000 for attorneys.
In Nevada.
No, in Nevada, I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
You can't sue the police. They can get away literally with murder. And they set the base of this violence, in my opinion. and of this, all this lying and all this criminality. Look at the guy that was sick, that was stopped by the Henderson police and was down on the ground, and a highway patrolman comes up, walks over and kicks him in the face 6 times and walks back to his car, and not a single one of those policemen reported that criminal act.
Rodney King.
That's another
It
one.
goes on.
Yeah.
There's no doubt it goes on.
They're setting the pace.
Well,
You go to other countries.
and I agree
you go
with
to,
you. I agree
You
with
go
you.
to other countries, and the police are like tourist guides.
I agree with you in the aspect of there is a lot of issues, and there should be accountability, and there should be full transparency. I support body cams.
Everyone says that.
I think
What policeman has been charged in this town?
well, there's no.
They will
legitimate
never
oversight.
charge one.
You have the police overseeing the police, so there's no oversight.
Yeah,
You have
they're
you
doing
have a
their own
committee on
investigations. That's
judicial
another thing.
discipline. That's all retired judges and lawyers disciplining their own retired judges and lawyers. You have
Yeah,
no
right.
discipline.
Yeah.
And their history is they don't discipline anybody.
it's not just with the police, that's what's
No,
most of the city and state agencies where they're policing each other.
That-
And there
that's
should
the
be.
law.
No,
there
they're
should be
policing
boards.
themselves.
Right, that's-
Right,
that's
and there should be
themselves.
boards to
Should be
like,
oversight.
oversee, and it
Civilian
should be
tribunals.
required that a certain amount of these board people be just everyday Joes
Right,
off the
that's
street, business owners in different
That's right.
categories and different,
School
with of
teachers,
course,
librarians, business owners,
professionals
not lawyers,
in the-
not judges.
correct.
Today, we've reached the point of the people have no.
said there's no integrity left
The
in the
people have
system.
no Fifth Amendment rights. The only ones with Fifth Amendment rights are the policemen. When they do something, they don't even have to talk about it.
But
And
Ed-
they're employees.
But Ed, what
It's
you say
incredible.
though, in all fairness, and yes, I agree, there's an issue there, and I agree with a lot of what you said on the issues. Maybe not to the extreme, but also, you're kind of the same problem on the flip side. You've got 2 negatives going head to head at each other. These
What are the two
two,
negatives?
the public
Police and-
society and the police and our service people.
That's right, we're enraged with the government.
But the thing is it shouldn't be 2 negatives. They need to come together because one can't exist without the other. Now, with all
Well,
the
the
wrongs
police
on both
believe-
sides,
the police
with all the
believe-
wrongs on both sides, the criminals on the public side and the bad cops out of the other. But I will say this, and I'm not defending the sheriff, I'm not defending the criminals and how they're handling it on either side. But reality is reality. It's not 2 negatives. It has to be 2 positives working together for the future. Because we can't live without the other. That's like saying you could be a human but no air. You know, we need the police and the police need us. So we need to come together and work this out. But out of the majority, in the percentage, it still comes out in favor of the police. There are a lot of good policemen that care, that do their job properly and work 20, 30 years and retire and have happy lives and never fired their gun one time. There are a lot. There are millions of these
That's
cops.
right, most of them.
You know, but the few make it bad. But on the flip side, you cited 10 cases. Okay, out of those 10 cases, how many of them were armed individual and was truly justified? Yeah, it's sad to see a 15-year-old carrying an AK-47 shot because he's 15, but that 15-year-old still could wipe out 20 people in one swoop. That doesn't make him any
What
less.
was the case of a
No,
15-year-old
I'm using that as an
carrying
example.
a-
That just because a case involved a 15, 16-year-old doesn't make it any lesser than if it was a 20, 30, 40-year-old grown adult. If he's got a weapon, he's a violent offender.
Okay, but let's go back to your main thesis, that this is 2 sides and they have to work together somehow. Okay, who has the greater responsibility? Who has the power? Who's supposed to be obeyed?
Okay, you got 3 questions there. Who has the responsibility? Both sides. Who has the power?
But
Who has the power? The police have the power as it stands, because one, we allowed it as the other side, as the people. We gave them that power. We gave them that authority. We let those laws pass by all these people that run for office saying, we're gonna cure this. Well, here's the cure, and we don't like it. And what was the third one?
Who has the responsibility?
And it's both's responsibility.
Well,
we have to work together and come together.
Look at what's happened here in Clark County.
Okay.
Everyone got frustrated with the inquest process. When this Yant case that I cited occurred, Gillespie, even Roger, the district attorney, knew that this was just beyond the pale. And so they said, okay, we have to do something. Well, people have been working for years to come up with a citizen review board, which they have, which functions somewhat, and with a new inquest system. So they decided, oh, excuse me, that's my fault. They decided the new inquest system, how it would be set up. And just
Who decided it?
The committee that was set up to do it. It had the DA was on it, the sheriff was on it, a number of citizens were on it, and they decided a new system. Okay, but the police union was against it, and the DA was against it, who is very pro-police. In fact, it turns out he was working for the police when he was a DA. I mean, it's just if there was ever a criminal in this city, it was him. But putting that aside, they decided on this system, but the police union would not allow the policemen to participate in this system, in the new system. So what did they do? The county commission got together. Okay, we're going to. The police came up with this idea. Okay, we're going to have the police investigate, and they're going to come and give a report on every killing. And so it's turned into nothing. And so that's how things work. No, it's the police
state law would require
it's the police
and
union
give
fault.
power to this committee, this particular committee you're talking about, and they had the power to subpoena, to make that officer in whatever case come and testify. Then it would be all out on the table. Obviously, the union has something to hide and is trying to protect its officer. I mean, not that we agree with it, but they're doing their job. But the thing is the legislators let the people down because they should have passed laws to give power to that committee.
They did pass this law.
But
They
nobody
passed it.
enforces the laws.
But yeah, it wouldn't. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Now, are we talking on a
legislature-
county level or a state level?
this is county. This is what
Oh,
State
happened.
wow.
legislature
Look at the group
passes-
that runs it. They're all Democrats.
Look,
State legislature
no.
passes statutes, and the judges are supposed to roll by these statutes, public policy, that are passed by the legislature. What happens when a judge ignores a statute? The legislature doesn't do anything about it. They should, because they're a check and balance, right? They don't do anything about it because they'd be infringing upon that branch of government. It's not infringing, it's a check and balance. When you pass a statute, for example, I have a case where the Supreme Court of a state changes a word in a statute from must to should. That means mandatory to discretionary. They can't do that, okay? I go to the legislature, the majority leader of the Senate, I say, look what happened. This can't be done. Oh, I agree with you, but I can't do anything about it because my boy went to college with that judge's stuff. What the fuck we got going on here? You know, that's a legislature? That's laws? So don't waste your time becoming a legislature, because whatever you think you're doing, you're not doing because nobody enforces it.
Yeah.
So when the legislature passes a statute and you have a judge in this town not applying the statute as written by law, the legislature and your legal department should do something about it.
Well, that illustrates my point. The government is misbehaving.
Because nobody's enforcing it.
When was the last time
And the
Nevada
police are
Senate
misbehaving.
called a Senate hearing to investigate something?
I don't think ever.
And when,
Not in my lifetime.
correct. And what state? When that power is there for the Senate to call, just like a congressional hearing, and bring the sheriff forward and these agencies and say, why is this going on?
Yeah, yeah, but that's not happening.
Hello.
So anyway, we're coming to the end of the program.
I'm just walking away.
Boy, that was quick.
Well, what other issues do you want to discuss? What other issues are you running your campaign on?
What, you covered the major ones. You know, taxes and the criminal issues are my biggest, and then the cost of living and doing right by businesses. You know, especially the mom and pop operations that struggle, pay their taxes, have maybe a couple employees and get no benefits or help. And I feel they should be entitled equally to what we're giving this car factory, you know, not equal benefits, but equal consideration, and you know, they're struggling, they're paying their bills, but because they only...
A level playing field for
Right,
everyone.
a level playing field. What's fair for one's fair for all. The water issue, I will say, is another big issue with me. I don't agree with draining lakes in the north to feed the lakes in the south. You know, I would like to see, if we can bring oil from Alaska to LA on a pipeline, then why aren't we running a pipeline from a Great Lake that overflows and floods every year, and run it to the nearest part of the Colorado River and bring all the water we need,
That's right.
free and clear,
Yeah.
and employ thousands of people to build this pipeline.
Yeah,
And save money in the long run.
Yeah.
Because a water pipeline is not even a quarter of what an oil pipeline costs.
yeah,
I mean, you don't have, because you're not working with thick crude.
yeah.
But I am against any of this, let's drain the lake in the north and bring it to the south.
Well, it's worse than that. The water authority just sold 150,000 acre feet of water, which is what, 20 billion gallons of water, something like that, to California, which is all the excess, all the conservation that the citizens have made here in Las Vegas. They sold it, they let it run down the river to California.
Well, you gotta make
It's-
electricity.
Well, but
We got water to run through there, we ain't gonna have much to make.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
conflict.
The
yeah.
thing is that gets
If
me
the
on
lake
this.
were full, that we would have a lot more electricity.
The thing that gets me on this water issue is we have known since the early 80s there was going to be a problem. We've done nothing. Now we wait till the crisis is here and we're gonna spend 5 times the amount to fix it. To go to the lake and see what we used to see with the water going over the
Spillway.
spillways, and now I don't think we'll ever see that day.
You need a helicopter to get up to Sandy Beach from your boat. You need to take a helicopter to get up there.
That's
It's
true.
200 feet up there.
Yeah, the lake has gone down
Or
150
what, that
feet.
city has reappeared or something.
Oh, yeah, there's towns.
But I mean, it's just,
St. Thomas.
it's absolutely sickening to see that.
That's when you have stupid people running the government.
Yeah, we never recycled our water, but yet, like they do to the solar people now, back in the 80s, you know, when people with wells, you know, oh, let's cap them, they're stealing the water, this is costing the water district, they wanted to meter the wells, well, that all failed.
Well,
Taking
how did
away-
it fail?
Well, because half of Nye County is well, you
Okay.
know, on wells, as well as a large percentage in Clark County, as well as still is to this day.
And so what does that mean?
What do you mean?
What, they're on wells, and so what happens?
Well, their properties are they pump their own water.
Yeah, right,
They're getting it straight out of the aqueduct.
yeah.
And just like they're doing with the solar today, you know, the
No,
solar
but let's
people.
stay on water.
Right,
What
but
are they doing, in your view, what's happening?
Well,
that's wrong?
my point is that shows back in the early 80s, mid 80s, when they tried to take away wells, instead of handling the problem with the lake draining and the water shortage and the fast growth and everything else, they turned to the people. Now we want to suck it from the people in the north, you know, instead of taking it where the water is in abundance, I'm not really a big fan of what do they call it, desalination for salt water.
Desalting, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't produce enough and it's outrageously expensive. But, you know,
A lot of it, though.
they let the problem go and go and go. And then now they put our utility bills in tier levels. Well, you flush your toilet, you pass tier 1. You know, and you wash dishes for a week, you pass tier 2. So basically, you're paying high dollars, you know, for what? For what? You know, for very little water, but yet we're paying high dollars and the money's going where? Where is this money
To
going?
salaries. They pay the highest salaries in the country.
And there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
No accountability.
That's my view, that our water is really our most valuable resource, and it can be used over and over and over again. As long as it's used indoors, you only use 1% of the water when it goes back in. Water that's used outdoors goes against our allocation of 300,000 acre-feet a year and can't be used again. But what the Water Authority could do is encourage indoor use of water and send it to the lake, you know, treat it and send it to the lake, and then we can withdraw whatever we put into the lake. So we can convert like the water that we sold to California for $50 million. If we use the system here, that would result in $18 billion if we recycle it 90 times, like it can be recycled, instead of using it once for the alfalfa farms in California.
I agree
and
with that.
But
we
they
should
don't
have been
believe in markets.
recycling and treating our water all along. And it's only been, what, 10 years that we started putting these plants in?
Which
to
plants?
do it, to treat the water, to put it back in the
Oh
lake.
no, we've always had good treatment plants here in Las Vegas. The treatment plants are very good. And they have, you
Oh,
can
I'm
drink
not
the
saying
water.
they're not good, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, you know, like Ethel M, look what they do with their water. They have their own system right there on their plant. They've always had it since they built the place.
Oh, okay,
I
well,
mean,
they may have a
you talk
well.
about being green. Oh, no, they have a treatment center. They treat and recycle
Okay.
their water right
Yeah,
there.
okay.
And you could take a tour.
I know.
You've never gone to
Yeah,
Ethel
I've
M?
gone, but I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to FOM to get the chocolates, but not to see the
Yeah.
treatment plant.
Yeah, they
I
have the
didn't know
cactus
that.
gardens and
Yeah,
and you
right.
could tour the whole thing and
Yeah,
walk
right.
around it. It's
Yeah,
really
right.
neat to,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a smaller scale because it's for their
Yeah.
factory. But I mean, they should be commended for what they've done. And they've done it since, what, the late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah.
You know.
But our water system, we have this valuable resource, and if we use it right, it could pay for the government of the entire, for everything that we do. But no, they want these incredible salaries, and which are the highest in the country. Average salary at the water district is $100,000, and they add 40%
Who's
to
getting the
that.
envelopes?
Well, it's run by the employees. The entire water system only benefits the employees.
But you know, I'll throw a question to you.
Yeah.
Okay, here we have Lake Mead.
Yeah.
Now it's a national park. We have to pay to go to the lake, which I just find totally disgusting.
Yeah, we pay for.
You know, and that's federal people that are running it.
Yeah.
So isn't it the federal government's responsibility to fill that lake back up and to put it there? So when it comes to draining a lake from the north to the south, why isn't at least half of that expense being paid by the federal government to run a pipeline from a Great Lake to the nearest Colorado River and let the river bring it down to us
That's
in
right.
nature's
No,
way,
I totally agree with you.
and the federal government pay for it. They built a dam, they built a lake, they bought out an entire city town and buried it underwater. Then they destroy it, and then they want us as taxpayers, now that a city has grown around it
Yeah.
into the millions, and need this water, plus another state that takes all the water apparently they want from us. And yet the federal government sits there and lets the state and the taxpayers pay the bill.
Yeah.
When it should be the federal government refilling that. bill.
But there's no question the federal government is mismanaging the lake.
Correct.
They're letting farmers use ancient irrigation techniques and far more water than they really need.
Oh.
And And instead of keeping the water in the lake, if you get less water, you should give out less water. It's just like a bank account. You'd better not write more checks than you have money in the
So
bank.
Jim needs to get elected and straighten everything out.
Yeah,
There
okay.
you go.
So tell people how to
What do I
get,
say?
Ron.
Jimmy, I'm Ron
Oh,
Newsom. Ron Newsom, Assembly
You
17.
know what?
Okay,
You
tell
get
the
it.
people. Ron Newsom, Assembly 17, how do they get in touch with you?
You get it through the website, newsomfornevada.com.
Is that a number or 3 letters or 4 letters?
Oh, it's Nevada number 4. It's Newsom number 4 Nevada.com.
For a number, okay.
And of course, anyone is welcome to call. The number is 702-852-1133.
But you don't even know your own number, are you sure you
That's
don't use that phone?
that's an exchange service that.
So you don't answer that?
No, it comes direct to us.
Oh, it does, okay.
I'm not gonna spend money for offices and stuff to run for an assembly district. I work mostly out of my house.
I see.
Because to me, I'd rather see the money, go towards getting to the people. So, but this saves from giving out personal information.
Okay, well, good luck in your election. Do you have a primary?
No, I
Oh.
won my primary,
So-
so I'm going straight to the general.
You go to general, I
Yeah.
see, okay. How did you win the primary?
Well, no one ran against
No one
me.
ran against
That's one way of winning, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Ron.
Well, thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So this is Rolando, did you meet Rolando?
Sorta. How are you? I've seen you on the other